Good afternoon, Rotarians.
Good afternoon, Tim.
Thank you, Bob.
Hi, Tim.
Thank you, Skeet. Welcome to the January 22nd, 2026 meeting of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. I am your president, Tim Lilwitz. As we always start off, let's thank our greeters today. Two of my board members, Mark Lyons and Scott Bennett, for their greeting today. And then we are extremely excited to have an inspiring speaker today and a very good program. So we won't have our traditional moment of inspiration because I think we'll get plenty of inspiration from the speaker. However, I did want to put up this inspiration. So it says, if you've ever said, I'll do that when hell freezes over, you're supposed to do that this weekend. Can't hear me? All right, great, thank you. Well, it wasn't a good joke anyway. So yes, all you people that have ever put that off, make sure you put that on your to-do list for this weekend. So after that, I'm going to lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance and the four-way test, and then we will greet our fellow Rotarians. So please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test? Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Now please greet your fellow Rotarians.
Hey, Skeet. This is my mother. This is Skeet. Doug, how are you? He'll be chair of the symphony board. And he is on the finance committee. Oh, yeah. I'm here as sort of so she's friends with the speaker.
I'm Sean Stories and anyone. Welcome to
Steve, as always. Always good to see you. Happy New Year. I don't think I've met you. Happy New Year. Let me make sure I get that. I don't know that many people. Yeah, I understand.
Hi, how are you? I'm here as her driver.
Oh, yes. I'm glad you're both here. Thank you.
Okay, as we return to our seats, as is tradition, we have several guests with us today, and we'll announce our guests. And guests, please stand when I state your name, and we will just remain standing for a few moments, and then we'll greet you all together at the end. So first we have Nabi John, guest of our speaker today. We have Edvin Kotarik, Senior Director of IT Services for Iowa Hospital Association, and a guest of Abai Nadapuram. We have, right here in front, Proctor and Glennis Luhrmann. Most of you remember Proctor is the CEO of Broadlawns, and he brought his mother with us today.
The other way around.
Both are guests of Graham Gillette.
Go Mom.
Right. And then finally we have Kelly Kruger, an Iowa City Rotarian. I think she's joined us before. She's the Executive Director of the Center for Advancement for the University of Iowa. So thank you all for joining us today. Yes, appreciate it. Okay. No Rotary Law and Disorder today. I apologize, but we have a few things to get to, so we'll skip that and come back next week. But first, we have, as we always do, Where in the World is Club 27. For our guests, the Rotary Club of Des Moines is the 27th club founded in the world of over 36,000 Rotary clubs. So First, we have our own Dr. Doug Dorner with a great picture from his recent trip to Madagascar, standing by the Rotary sign there. So I'm sure Doug had a fantastic time in Madagascar. And then, hold off for a second, don't say it yet. Just how you guys know how this works. So I get a script every week from Kitty, right? And she shows me who's submitting photos for where in the world. And I saw Doug Dorner's and I was like, this is great. We don't have one from Doug Saltzgaber again this week. Then I turned the page. This is what we found. This is past President Doug Saltzgaber at the Windsor Heights Hy-Vee. Yes, exactly. So two things. I appreciate, Doug, you finding somewhere more interesting than Hilton Coliseum for us. I appreciate that. And second of all, look at this picture. This isn't a selfie. Who took the picture, Doug? Who took the picture? You asked your wife to. Yeah. I thought maybe you stopped in the parking lot and asked someone to take a picture of you on Hy-Vee. Thank you, Mr. Saltzgaber, for that submission. A reminder, if you're going somewhere fun like Madagascar, you can take us with you. We'll check out a sign from Kitty. Okay, a couple more announcements before we get to our speaker. As we stated last week, and we'll continue to remind you, the End Polio Now Iowa Wolves game is set for 3 p.m. on Sunday, February 22nd. Again, if you want to attend the game, please use the QR code that is on the flyer on your tables. And if you instead want to donate your tickets, please use the forms that are on the table to fill that out and do so. $10 of each ticket goes to help end polio, and consider buying or donating 2 tickets for this important Rotary cause. We have 44 tickets sold so far, and our goal is 100, so let's try and get that by next month. All right. Current Rotary Club of Des Moines Foundation President Becky Greenwald has an exciting announcement for us to follow up from her program from last week. So, Becky.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you again. Quickly, on behalf of the foundation, great news. For those that are visiting, this past December, we gave a $50,000 community grant to Puppy Jake Foundation for service dogs, and they have come back to us and said, hey, Rotary Foundation, you can name a puppy.
Oh.
Yeah, and so one of our members has already come up with a couple of names, and we thought, well, let's bring everybody in on the fun. So, if you've got some ideas for a puppy name, you can submit them via email to Kitty between now and next week, and we'll get all those names together, and then a small group of us will limit it, bring it down to maybe 4 or 5 choices, and then we're going to open it up to the whole club to vote on what should be the new Puppy Jake Foundation puppy name. So we'll have stuff going on. There'll be something coming out in the newsletter on Tuesday announcing this whole fun adventure. So get your creative juices going. Email only to Kitty if you've got some puppy names to put into the mix, and then be thinking about it. And you'll have time to vote here in the meetings. We'll have the things set up for you to vote. And you can also vote online, and that will all be explained in the newsletter item. And we're kind of thinking to make it fun. Maybe, you know, when you put your name in for a vote, maybe throw $5 in there, a little cash donation, no tax benefits to it at all. But just make it a little interesting, and whoever ends up with the biggest pot of bucks, that's what the name will be. Sound like a deal? Okay, yeah.
Past President Becky, may I ask who is in the lead right now?
Well, I couldn't divulge that.
May I?
How would you do that?
I would say Graham.
Oh,
Don't you think Graham would be a great?
great name.
Dog
They
name.
don't, that name doesn't, they don't follow orders very well. It's not a good name.
Put your money where your mouth is and submit that name. And then you guys will all have an opportunity to vote on it. So it should be some fun. So
Go home.
looking forward to it. You got a chance between now and the end of February. Details are coming next week. Any questions? Graham, sorry, got put on this. That is a good idea. Although I got to share this one. I lived in Perry. Hotel Perry had the great Hotel Patty opened up, and the chef there was a Michelin star person. He was going on about Valrhona chocolate is the best chocolate in the world. Well, at the same time, we get a chocolate lab. We decided to name our dog Valrhone because it's a he instead of a Valrhona. Well, then it turns out I have to be very careful when I would holler for Valrhone, because if you don't enunciate clearly, if you add a C to the front of it, it's a very bad thing to say. So just letting you know, we gotta be careful what names we pick.
Thank you, Becky. Appreciate that. And as she said, let's have some fun and raise a little money for the foundation in naming a new puppy for Puppy Jake. So before we get to our speaker, the last thing we have to do today is we are still catching up on introducing new members to the club. So today's new member is Nakona Dayton. So Nakona, do you want to join me up here? And I'll start talking so you don't have to stand up here the whole time. Nakona is an Iowa native and grew up on a farm between Latimer and Alexander, Iowa. The work ethic she learned has carried over with her in everything she does. The many different aspects of livestock, crops, and 4-H of being on the farm has also been reflected in Nakona's professional life. She has a background in training, wellness, executive administration, customer relations, merchandising, and operations. Quite a broad swath of knowledge. If you think about it, all these chapters in Nakona's life can be related to learning on the farm. Nakona is a Drake University alumni. During the time she was at Drake, her parents moved to Johnson, and her family has been here in the metro ever since. Nakona is currently the customer relations manager at Tri-City Group, or Tri-City Electric, as you might know them. She lives in Johnston and is married with 2 rescued fur babies, a blue tick coonhound named Wyatt and a chocolate lab mix named Earl. So Wyatt and Earl. Okay. You can't use those names. So traditionally, as we do, we ask 5 questions of Nakona. You've got a free day. What will we find you doing? Nakona said, in warm weather, which is not today, on a beach collecting seashells, if able, or outdoors anywhere with her dogs. In cold weather, indoors working on training her dogs, or during the holidays, taking the top off her Jeep, wrapping it in holiday lights, and driving around looking at lights with the Christmas songs playing loud and singing along. Sounds like quite the fun time. Where in the world have you traveled to and can't wait to go back? Nakona says she does love to travel, but there's nowhere yet that she would want to go back to, only because there are too many places to go see that she hasn't been yet. What piece of advice what's the best piece of advice, that you've ever been given? And Nakona responded, no junk thoughts, which I think is a good catchphrase. This was from her junior high youth group. So basically you train your brain in how to look at things, and the negative is the junk. So work on seeing the positive and thinking outside the box to find the positive. What talent or skill do you possess that might surprise or delight people? Nakona loves horseback riding and cattle drives. Longhorn cattle are her favorite, but has also worked with, how do you say it, Charlet cattle on the farm she grew up on. She started showing cattle at the age of 7 in 4-H and at the Iowa State Fair. She also loves deep sea fishing. Her largest catch is a Goliath grouper down in Florida. How many pounds?
Couldn't get him because you
You couldn't
couldn't pull him in.
get him in? Okay, so it's quite a large fish. All right, as is tradition, the final question, Nakona, is you are joining the Rotary Club of Des Moines. What can't you wait to tell your friends and family about the organization?
Thank you very much. This has been an amazing opportunity. I was thankful that somebody shared about Rotary, and then Josh Braby did the hosting for me to come my first time. It's been amazing. Not only was it, of course, for the connections, however, after I looked up Rotary and the connection aspect, the 4-way test is what caught me, and that is the one thing that I love to share with everybody, because it's not just about the connections, it's about giving back, and that is huge. So kind of like when the junk thoughts, it's all the positive things that you can do and how you can spread that, and that is still played out every day. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Nakona. We're delighted to have you as part of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. And now, Graham Gillette, our program's chair for this year, will be introducing our inspirational speaker for today. Graham?
Many of you know my friend Proctor, and
and you know that Proctor has held many executive positions at Unity Point Des Moines, and now is the CEO of Broadlands Medical Center. But that's not why he's here today. His chief job today is he was the driver for Glennis to get Glennis here, and that's his main job. And Glennis is here because Glennis introduced us to the speaker, and I think works part-time as Fazl's agent, promoting his book. So we thank Glennis for bringing him to us today. I am pleased to introduce our second author presentation this month. At our first program of the year, we heard from Dave Hoggy and Josephine Marcotti, authors of Sea of Grass. They spoke about the loss of America's grasslands, degraded water quality, and other challenges born in the Midwest, but carrying global consequences. Today we will hear from a writer whose story began more than 7,300 miles away, but continues here in Iowa. It can be difficult to fully understand history as it unfolds in real time. Whether we are witnessing what Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney just yesterday described as a rupture in world order, or something history will ultimately record differently, one thing is clear. Now more than ever, we must listen carefully and critically to one another. Only by doing so do we learn. There is much to be learned from Fazl Manir Adil's personal experiences, both as someone directly impacted by the United States' most recent war, and as an immigrant building a new life in Iowa in that war's aftermath. Fazl Manir Adil is an author, speaker, and advocate based in Des Moines. Born in a refugee camp in Pakistan to Afghan refugee parents, he taught himself English and computer skills, laying the foundation for his education. He later served as an interpreter with U.S. Special Operations in Afghanistan before resettling in Iowa in 2021. His life has been an odyssey across South Asia, the Middle East, and the United States. In his book, A River is Made, Fazl traces the journey from life in a refugee camp to building a sense of belonging in America. The story culminates in his father's defining act of generational love, securing for his children, and especially for his daughter, the enduring American gifts of education, freedom, and a voice of her own. Along the way, he confronts one of the book's central emotional challenges, navigating the complex and often overwhelming U.S. healthcare system for children with special needs. I am proud that his search for opportunity and belonging has made him one of us. Please join me in welcoming our neighbor, Fazl Manir Adil.
I don't know if I deserve that kind of a long introduction, but thank you so much, Graham. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a deep honor for me standing before you in a room full of wisdom and experience. Thank you for giving me the gift of your time and attention.
Yeah. Remember to turn it on. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm kind of excited and worried and so many things here. My name is Fazal. While I come from a distant land, Afghanistan, I believe we are not very different. We may speak different languages, wear different clothes, or enjoy different foods, but the human heart honors sacrifice and the struggle, no matter where it comes from. Today I'm not just here to talk about war, migration, or how the policy of great nations changes or can change lives on the other side of the world. But I'm also here to talk about something very simple and far more powerful, which is the legacy of sacrifice.
Do you want me to help you with the thing?
I'm sitting here, so
Okay. If it doesn't work, let me know. I can help.
Yep.
Let me say it in a proverb in my language. Qatra, qatra, darya mesha. Drop by drop, a river is made. When I think of sacrifice, it reminds me of a question once I asked my father, why aren't you educated? His answer was a short story about fear of education. When he was only 9 years old, his father, my grandfather, was so afraid of him being taken to school that he dressed him up to look older. This was mid-1950s when Afghanistan was relatively a peaceful country. The economy was not very strong, but people lived with a sense of happiness and simplicity of rural and suburban life. Afghanistan maintained diplomatic ties with Britain, the Soviet Union, and the United States. However, due to geography and the need for infrastructure, the regional politics, including Afghanistan, relied heavily on the Soviet Union for projects such as roads, dams, and technical training. The Afghan government launched a nationwide campaign to enroll children in public schools of ages 7 to 9. During this period, Soviet investment was rapidly transforming Afghanistan's urban planning, whose growing influence extended beyond infrastructure into the classrooms and culture. Many Afghans feared that such involvement would bring not only material progress but also ideological control. A public education affected by communist influence seemed to threaten religious life and the traditional values, stirring up suspicion in rural communities. Families worried that government schooling would erode their children from faith and sever them from their cultural roots. My father would tell me how officials came to their village to select boys for public schools. They walked door to door, looking for children of the right age for the enrollment. But my grandfather believed it was better for them to work on farms and to protect families' way of life, rather than being risk taken into the government schools. He was determined that his children will not be taken. So he dressed my father up in his old clothes, once so oversized they nearly swallowed him whole. He layered fabric over my father's thin frame to make him look older. He stuffed bracts into his own shoes so they wouldn't slip off my father's thin feet. He wrapped his torn turban around my father's head, the fold sagging over his ears to give him the look of a grown man. And as final precaution, he went to the village elder and gave him a little money to lie about my father's age. The elder told the official that my father was already past the schooling age. And just like that, the dreams of education for my father were shattered before it even could begin. Instead of classrooms lessons, my father's youth was shaped by village life and values of family, hard work, faith, and resilience. My father's education was sacrificed for his family values, or perhaps the Cold War propaganda. But decades later, the same values had ignited a war, and now the entire family had to sacrifice their home. By 1983, 4 years after the Soviet invasion, my parents' village, Zima, was drowning in war. The sound of Soviet jets had become familiar as the wind, their bombs tearing apart valleys, villages, and every living soul that stood in front of them. By the day, Soviet patrols moves door to door. At night, the family hid in silence, holding their breath as helicopters circled overhead. The village had become ghost town, where even the sound of prayers could invite danger. My father and his brother dug deep into the earth, carving bunkers in their yard. They built narrow tunnels and covered the entrances with the planks, branches, and thick layer of cow dung, and soil so they looked like a part of the ground. When the violence grew unbearable, my father made the hardest decision of his life. He sent my mother, the children, and my grandfather and across the border into the neighboring country, Pakistan. Trusting strangers, mountains, and another country in search of familiarity in language, religion, and traditional cultures. My mother led this journey from freezing winds and miles of walks, praying that each step would carry them closer to safety. For 4 months, my father lived behind, hiding, moving between the bunkers he had built in hope of a better life or better day. But as the situation worsened, one dark night, he and his brothers fled on foot. They walked 5 days and nights through the mountains, hungry, exhausted, but alive, until he finally reached Pakistan and reunited with his family. The reunion was a comfort, but now they had lost everything: his family, his home, his animals, community. The only one thing he had protected, which mattered most, was life itself. And in time when the world was at war, his choices to save his family rather than his possessions becomes the greatest act of courage. And from those stories, I carried lessons with me ever since. When I visited Afghanistan, by the story now you understand, I lived in Pakistan. I visited Afghanistan for the first time in 2012, and these are the entrances of the bunkers my father and his brothers has dug into his house, which is from here to here. And these are the other villagers' homes and the walls. Like millions of others, the Soviet invasion pushed families across borders, not only Pakistan, but the neighboring countries as well. Long before I was born, my parents had traveled through different regions of Pakistan, following the rhythm of seasons so my father could work year-round. In the warmer months, he did farm labor. When the fields went dry, he sought daily wage jobs in cities where the weather remained bearable. It was constant search for stability, yet even there the cycle of ideological education repeated itself. My siblings were enrolled in public schools for refugees, but the curriculum carried political messages. These lessons were designed as a propaganda supported by outside powers, even the government of the United States. Math problems came with militant examples, such as if a mujahid kills 4 or 5 Russian infidel soldiers, how many remain? This was a math question. Even the Pashto, which is my language, alphabet carried the language of conflict. For example, the letter Ta was taught with the words like topak, which means gun, or tura, which means a sword, instead of tarbuz, which means watermelon, or a takhta, which means a chalkboard. Across grammar, science, and reading, the imagery of battle dominated. textbooks were filled with bullets, grenades, rifles, and bombs falling from the sky, all beneath slogans such as "Russians are cruel." Heroism was defined as sacrifice and fierceness. While these lessons gave children the basic literacy, they stood in sharp contrast to the values my family lived by, values grounded in peace, dignity, and compassion. My father saw what was behind those lessons, and he pulled my siblings out of those schools. His fear was different from my grandfather's, but the result was the same. My older siblings, including my sister Fatima, had their dreams of education cut short too. And guess what? These textbooks printed during the Afghan Jihad era. It was a part of the US funded education campaign during the 1980s and 90s, distributed by US aid and developed through the University of Nebraska, Omaha. Millions of these books were distributed among Afghan children, embedding both literacy and the ideological content into early education. The link is still a living link. I mean, it works if you wanted to go and check it. I'll start from here, figure 1. This is the page 12 of Pashto alphabet textbook showing the letter Z with the accompanying text promoting personal cleanliness, jihad, and disciplined behavior. For example, I keep myself clean. The youth are performing jihad. A good boy does not waste time playing. Now I wonder why my parents didn't want me to play soccer or cricket. Figure 2, page 5, showing the letter Ta with accompanying text associating the letter with a rifle, topak, reflecting how weaponry was incorporated into basic literacy lessons. My uncle has a gun. He performs jihad, the holy war, with the gun. Figure 3, page 1, first unit, counting lesson from 1 to 10 using visual objects such as rifles, grenades, bullets, and other weaponry images, reflecting how militant themes were embedded into math instruction. In figure 2, the small text at the footnote, compared to this one, doesn't have of those. Small text in the footnote emphasizes the teacher should have the students practice writing about the gun. While in figure 3, it emphasizes the teacher should ask students about the shapes of each group, their names, their purposes of use, and how many items are in each. Most of these footnotes reinforce jihadist content only. Not here. But it was not only that. Afghan refugees have always been strangled between the political rivalry of India and Pakistan, which made life even harder. I was born to refugee parents already struggling to navigate life in another country. For 3 decades, we lived without a country to belong to. At checkpoints, our legal documents were ignored, turning routine travel into a relentless cycle of extortion and suspicion. Getting basic education was private, approachable, but expensive. Pursuing higher education also came with limitation. I wasn't allowed to sit for federal exam no matter how much I studied. The requirement was to prove that my parents were citizens or that I was a citizen. Pakistan does not have birthright citizenship, so without papers, I had no chance. That kind of barriers does not just block education, it shutters or crushes the hope. And as an example in American perspective, imagine you were born in the United States, like me in Pakistan, to parents who fled a terrible war in Mexico, to me like Afghanistan, Your family crossed borders to survive, but even though you were born here, the US government never gave you citizenship. You grew up here, went to school, spoke the language, but you were always treated as an outsider. Now you imagine that the basic education was not issued to get, but if you were to graduate from high school or seek higher education, in that case you had limits, and you had to prove that your parents are US citizens, not refugees. Now imagine every time the US had political tensions with Mexico or Canada, in my case like India, the anger in America affected Mexican refugees, even kids like you who never lived in Mexico and had nothing to do with Canada. But you were targeted simply because Mexico was friendly with another neighbor of America who may have long-time political rivalry. That's what it was like for me in Pakistan as an Afghan refugee child. Though I was able to get basic schooling, I couldn't pursue higher education. Once again, because of bureaucracy, the dream of higher education was shattered, this time for me. Imagine 3 generations, my father, my siblings, and then me. But this is where my story changes. I remember traveling 8 hours just to get my hands on imported books from Europe and the United States. I taught myself English and listening to BBC World Services, by watching Hollywood films, by reading whatever I could find. I learned English from video games like GTA, Grand Theft Auto 3, 2003. Every word was small victory. Every sentence opened a window I thought was forever closed. That persistence led me to unexpected places. And one day I landed in Dubai. I worked there for 7 years, from a car parking relay to watching the operations of multi-million-dollar company. I returned to Afghanistan and took a job as an interpreter for US special operatives in a place which carried both history and danger. Anyone connected to such a job was branded as a CIA collaborator by the enemy. But somehow I survived. We made it out, wounded in spirit, but alive. Within days, our unit was evacuated from Afghanistan, moved to different military bases around the world. Eventually, I arrived here in the United States. Now what you see is just a surface, a man in clean clothes standing politely, if I may, speaking to you in English. But behind this moment, there is a road of difficulty. I've crossed borders, survived systems that were designed to break me, and lived between countries that never quite claimed me. But what kept me going was always the same thing my family had lived by, and that is hope. This is not a unique but very human story, and a story of a sacrifice and responsibility. And you all know this because you, all of you, have lived a life of responsibility over comfort. Maybe you were not stopped from going to school or cross borders for mere survival, but you have crossed decades of hard choices. Maybe you didn't miss birthdays because of distance, but because you were working late, providing and sacrificing. We all have our own version of, I was not there, but I was trying. And that's what I've come to respect most in people who have lived a purposeful life. Not their perfect moments, but their private endurance. That's why I look around to you in this room, and I don't see differences between ages and genders. I see wisdom and I see spines that carry families forward. Sometimes without applause, often without rest. You are the foundation stones of everything your children and grandchildren now enjoy. Some of you may have repaired your cars by hand. Some of you may have lived through war. Some of you may have planted seeds in land that you didn't know would ever bloom. And yet you did it. And that's the legacy I honor today. And we must honor the legacy of freedom, opportunity, and democracy which you helped build and that your future generations now inherit. You matter, your stories matter, your memories are gold. And thank you for reminding people like me who are building now that we don't do it alone. May your years ahead be full of joy, purpose, and plenty of untold story. Thanks so much. Thank you. I really deserve that. Thank you so much. My pleasure to be here. Before I go into question, I thought maybe I can entertain you guys with some of the first-hand videos from Afghan allies evacuation. Which
Yeah.
maybe
Do you
can
want that
put it on
one?
mute, yes.
Oops.
Sorry. This one.
Okay. Like if you just push it again, it should play.
You can just play it.
Oops.
Let me help
No,
you.
I can't.
That's okay.
You drive it. Oh, there we go.
I should put it on mute first.
There we go.
So this is one of the U.S. forward operation base where I worked. And this was the 16th of August 2021 when we were evacuating from coast city towards the capital, Kabul. I'll go fast, so I don't want to take time with that one. That's me in the civilian clothes because I was an interpreter. I've never been to wars or battles, so excuse me for that. And the others are my friends. That's me.
Want this one to go? It's going.
That's also when we were in Kabul, we were going from one of the US military base to the international airport of Kabul. It was just a 5 minutes flight, maybe less than that, but it was dangerous on the ground. And the photo is where we were lining up all our unit members and their families for the flights of Operation Allies. These are also the two videos that when we were leaving the Hamid Karzai International Airport, like most of the equipments were left there, including these small airplanes. You can play the other one. Thank you. And that's me the last day when we were leaving towards Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, 24th of August, 2021. And 2 days after that, you know what happened. One of the worst tragedy in American CIA's history. So, this story and much more in my book, which is available online. So, thank you so much for listening to my story. And now I'm ready for your questions.
One back there.
So, how did they present you with the opportunity to come to the U.S.? Were we promised that, or?
For me, I think, yeah, it has been promised, but I believe there has been so many people and even some of my colleagues. In that pickup truck, I had 2 of my colleagues that were not employed by the United States, but they were a part of our mission, and they had worked in Afghanistan's intelligence, which is, they call NDS. Our operations were basically kind of involvement of both intelligence agencies, and these guys had worked for the United States interest for 10 years. But the day when we were evacuating our military base, they were told that they're not coming with us because they were not employed by the United States. Imagine someone who has killed, sorry to say this, people for 10 years, saving the interest and safeguarding the interest of the United States for 10 years. And the day they're coming, they're told that you're not coming with us. So yeah, so many of my colleagues and friends and people that I know are still living in hiding. I hope I have answered your question. Thank you.
Why don't we, you stick around after this for more questions? You're fine, thank you so
Thank you, Fazal, for that wonderful, wonderful presentation. I know a number of our members were looking at purchasing the book, so again, thank you for sharing your story with us. Very, very inspiring. And he did, Fazal did say he'll stick around for a few minutes if anyone has questions that they want to come up, that they want to ask the broader group. He's happy to talk to you. So before we leave, real quick, a couple reminders. Upcoming meetings, remember to grab someone that you think would make a good Rotarian or a guest that would be interested in these speakers. The 29th of January, next week, Deanna Strable, the CEO of Principal Financial Group, will be here. February 5th, the CEO On With Life and our own Rotary Club of Des Moines member, Gene Shelton, will be sharing what's going on with Life up in Ankeny. And then on February 12th, Jeff Lamberti, who is known to many of you, will be here to speak about the Italian American Cultural Center. So, great speakers coming up. And then, wanted to remind everyone, we had a great fuel session on Tuesday morning this week. Our own Graham Gillette prepared and read a personal essay that he had prepared with some great fellowship and Q&A afterwards. And so, again, this is a smaller group. Usually, as you can see, about 15 or 20 of us is the typical attendance, and we have some great Rotarians lined up for the rest of the Rotary year. So on February 17th, we have David Oman will be our featured Rotarian, and then on March 10th, Dick Stauffer will speak, and then we have a couple. We'll skip April because we have a number of Rotary things going on and opportunities to engage in fellowship that you'll hear more about soon. And then on May 5th, on Cinco de Mayo, Jackie Norris will be our featured Rotarian at Fuel. So Jackie promised me we'll pass out tequila instead of coffee. That was my joke on that one. But thank you for being with us today, everyone. Thank you for being a vital part of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. Thank you to our numerous guests that were here. We appreciate you joining us. Officially welcome to Nocona. And as I say every week, please stay true to the good. We are adjourned.